Welcome, you're watching Vox News, your daily evening news with Rita Kamkumo. Our headlines today. South African president has announced gradual easing of lockdown from the 1st of May. AFRICA Bank announced a $3 million COVID-19 response grant for African countries to combat the pandemic. Myriam Makeba's legendary hit Pata Pata has been relaunched with new lyrics to fight coronavirus.
Stay at home and wait it out. This is what we gotta do, mama.
It is now official, nearly 4 months after the disputed results of the Bissau-Guinean presidential election of December 2019, the Economic Community of West African States announced in a statement on Wednesday that they recognize Umaru Sissoco Embalo's second-round victory. The regional bloc has asked Mr. Sissoco Embalo to appoint a prime minister by the 22nd of May under the provisions of the Constitution and according to the results of the general elections of the 10th of March 2019. However, the Supreme Court has not yet ruled on the validity of the election of the newly elected president, following the request made by his opponent for the presidency, Domingos Simoes Pereira, who is contesting his victory. The European Union has aligned itself with the decision of the West African states. On the political front, in Mali, the presidential party, the Rally for Mali, has stopped the results of the general elections that took place in March and April, with 43 deputies out of 147 in the National Assembly, according to provisional official figures released on Thursday. However, the ruling party did not obtain the absolute majority. The challenge of the elections was to renew a parliament elected in 2013, whose mandate was supposed to end in 2018, and to advance the implementation of the Algiers peace agreement signed in 2015 between the separatist armed groups and Bamako. This agreement provides for more decentralization through a constitutional reform that must go through the National Assembly. In Burkina Faso, the Union for Progress and Reform, the main opposition party, warned on Thursday about a risk of collapse in the north of the country, threatened by jihadist groups. The vice president of the party declared that the Sahel region, epicenter of the security and humanitarian crisis, is collapsing without the government bringing a solution. He then explained that for a month, Djibo, the chief town of the Soums province in the north of Ouagadougou, is cut off from the rest of the country and is therefore suffering from severe shortages, such as food, pharmaceuticals, or even water. The political leader added that the few products available are costly. Northern Burkina Faso is the most affected area of the country by jihadist abuses that have killed more than 800 people and displaced 860,000 in the past 5 years. On the economic front, the African Export-Import Bank announced on Thursday a $3 million COVID-19 response grant for African countries. The objective of the Pan-African financial institution is to complement continental efforts to combat the coronavirus pandemic. According to AFRICA Bank's president, Professor Benedict Orama, the grant is in response to a request by African leaders through the medium of the African Union chairperson, South African President Cyril Ramaphosa, for the mobilization of resources to address the pandemic. According to Professor Orama, a significant proportion of the grant will go to the COVID-19 Special Fund set up by the African Union as well as the African Center for Disease Control. AFRICA Bank's grant support comes in addition to several initiatives the bank is taking to support the effort in fighting the pandemic. The Republic of the Congo is anticipating a recession of -9% in 2020 due to the collapse in oil prices. Meanwhile, its neighbor, the Democratic Republic of the Congo, is expecting a recession of -2.2% caused by the fall in mineral exports, according to a finance bill presented on Wednesday by the government. These provisions lie on the assumption of a price per barrel set at $25 against $55 in the initial budget. According to official figures, oil represents 1/3 of Congo's GDP, 2/3 of its budgetary revenues, and 85% of its export revenues.
Beyond Thursday, the 30th of April, we should begin a gradual and phased recovery of economic activity. We will implement what we call a risk-adjusted strategy through which we take a deliberate and cautious approach to the easing of current lockdown restrictions.
President Cyril Ramaphosa's words come after the South African government has ordered a total lockdown over the last 4 weeks to stem the progression of COVID-19 in the country.
While a nationwide lockdown is probably the most effective means to contain the spread of the virus, it cannot be sustained indefinitely. We must avoid a rushed reopening that could risk a spread which would need to be followed by another hard lockdown.
The government has established 5 alert levels based on the severity of the restrictions to avoid a rapid increase of virus infections. Level 5 equals to total lockdown, while at level 1 most activities can resume. The government is now amending the alert level of the country depending on the regions. Starting next Friday, the country will move from alert level 5 to alert level 4, which will give companies more flexibility. Some of them will even be able to resume their activities with only a third of their employees. However, bars, stadiums or places of worship will remain closed. Residents will always have to stay at home as much as possible, and mask wearing will be made mandatory. On the health front, the president of the Comoros, Azali Assoumani, declared on Wednesday that no case of COVID-19 has been registered in the 3 islands of the Union of the Comoros. However, President Assoumani called on the population to respect the preventive measures prescribed by authorities. The Comorian government has also put in place accompanying measures to support Comorian citizens and institutions suffering from the impacts of the health crisis. Unlike Comoros, Cameroon, which has officially declared 1,163 cases of coronavirus and 42 deaths, is the second most affected country in sub-Saharan Africa after South Africa. As a result, over 1,300 prisoners were released from jail in the country's 2 main cities to ease overpopulated prisons and to limit the spread of the new coronavirus in prison. According to the Ministry of Justice, 608 detainees were set free in the city of Douala, the economic capital, and 700 others in Yaoundé, the political capital. In mid-April, Cameroonian President Paul Biya decreed the commutation and remission of sentences for some prisoners. In Nigeria, Lagos local government has opened a screening center where doctors collect patient samples as the number of COVID-19 patients continues to increase. Once the samples are collected, the medical team sends them to 12 official coronavirus laboratories, which together can test 1,500 people a day. So far, health authorities in the country have carried out 7,100 tests on a population of nearly 200 million people. In the Democratic Republic of the Congo, the National Assembly and the Senate voted on Thursday the extension by 15 days of the state of emergency induced by the health crisis. In the Assembly, 64 deputies out of 500 attended the vote and agreed to extend the state of emergency decreed on the 24th of March by President Félix Tshisekedi. There were only 3 abstentions. The vote put an end to the political crisis that was ongoing within the ruling coalition that brings together the relatives of President Tshisekedi and the supporters of his predecessor, Joseph Kabila, who secured a majority in parliament. On the health front, as the coronavirus pandemic continues to hit African countries, in the Democratic Republic of the Congo, people in Kinshasa, the country's capital, are turning to local medicinal plants to maintain their health, made available to them by biochemists.
This plant was used when they had very sick children. To treat internal diseases, they used to talk about the belly or sometimes for fevers. Traditionally, they used it. But unfortunately, it is used in the traditional way. The dose is not well known and even then it caused a lot of accidents. Respect the measures but also use turmeric, consume ginger, garlic, onions, the maniget, commonly known as mondongo in Kinshasa. Use eggplant because there are active ingredients, molecules, and therefore antioxidants in its food products which are potential inhibitors of the properties of COVID-19.
In the capital's central market, Gambela, several people visit the stalls of traditional pharmacists to buy plants, roots, without necessarily looking for a cure against coronavirus.
People suffering from fever, coughs and other diseases, they are advised to take these plants: Congo bololo, lumba lumba, tititimba, sinki. All these mixtures of plants that we advise them to boil to turn in the pot in order to inhale the vapor of the plants for 3 days. After that, the patient will feel better.
We didn't prescribe Congo bololo to people only for the coronavirus, no. Congo bololo is a plant that everyone can consume. If one cannot find a solution in modern medicine, at this time they return to the medicine of the ancestors and we would prescribe them afterwards a cure from these plants.
The Congolese Minister of Scientific Research, Martin Mavungu, has recently invited traditional doctors to suggest solutions to the health crisis and to work together to fight effectively against coronavirus. Finally, South African legendary singer Myriam Makeba's global hit Pata Pata has been adapted with new lyrics to help fight the spread of coronavirus, as announced by the UNICEF on Thursday. The lyrics of the song, released in 1967, which became one of the symbols of the South African liberation struggle, have been revisited to encourage social distancing and hygienic practices, such as washing your hands regularly. The song, interpreted by singer Angelique Kidjo, was recorded to spread hope in the time of coronavirus. The singer said the song reminds her of her beloved friend, jazz legend Manu Dibango, who passed away earlier this month after contracting the new coronavirus. That's it for today. Thank you for watching Vox News.